I didn't want anybody to outdo my backdrop, so I didn't figure I can lose on that one.
Well, Elizabeth made you guys a backdrop. Let's see if I can show it to you.
Oh, wait, I could lose. How cute is that?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Village of Tequesta special council meeting, which is being held using video conferencing due to the spread of the coronavirus. Video conferencing of government meetings has been authorized by State of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in his executive order of 2020-69. It is Thursday, April 9th, 2020, and it is 6:04 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Brennan.
Here.
Councilmember Brandon.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember D'Ambra.
Here.
Councilmember Prince.
Here.
Right. The invocation will be delivered by Pastor Paul Beresford and the pledge led by Councilmember Kyle Stone. Pastor.
It's actually, I'll let Kyle go ahead and introduce the gentleman. Sorry.
But for tonight, I've asked that Father Doug come on and do the invocation.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize.
My fault.
So I know he is muted at this moment.
Do you know what his screen name is?
DSCHARF.
He is unmuted.
Father Doug, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Doug Scharf. I'm the priest at Good Shepherd Episcopal Church, your backyard neighbor. So thank you for having me tonight. Let us pray. God of all grace and mercy, on this night your Son shared his final meal with his disciples. Give us strength to follow his example of humble service and sacrifice. We pray tonight for all those whose lives were affected by the coronavirus and the health emergency afflicting our nation. Empower our leaders with your wisdom. Sustain our nurses and doctors and first responders with your strength. Embrace those who are sick with your healing presence. And grant your mercy to those who have died. As we gather together tonight, we pray especially for the work of this council. Guide their decisions, inspire their actions, embolden their witness, and direct them always to the fulfillment of your purpose. We give you praise and we give you thanks. We ask this for the sake of one who came among us as one who serves. Amen.
Amen. Councilman?
So we'll move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
To the flag
of
of the United States of America, to the
And
republic
to the republic
which
which
stands
stands
one
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
truth and justice for all. All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All right. Agenda item 1, the first order of business is the administration of council oaths of office for council seat 1, Frank D'Ambra, and council seat 5, Bruce Prince. Village Clerk McWilliams.
And I think council seat for Lori Brandon.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right. Forgot because she didn't have to run.
I sent out an amended agenda with that information on it.
Yeah, that wasn't, okay, thank you.
So if I could have Lori, Frank, and Bruce raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Lori.
Bruce Prince,
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly
Solemnly
swear
that I will support,
that I
that I
will
will
support,
protect, and defend
protect,
and defend
the Constitution and government
the
the
Constitution and
and
government
government
of the United States
of the
of the
United States
and of the state of Florida
and
and
of
of
the
the
state of Florida,
Florida
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
domestic or foreign,
domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and I
and
will bear true
faith,
loyalty, and allegiance
loyalty, and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and that I am entitled to hold office
and that I
and
am
I am entitled to hold
office
office
under the Constitution,
under the Constitution,
and that I will faithfully perform
and
and that I will faithfully perform
all the duties
all the duties
duties
of council member seat
of
of
council
council
member
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 seat
C5.
number
One.
3,
on which I am about to enter.
in which I'm
Which
about
I'm
to
about
enter.
to enter.
So help me God.
So help me
So
God.
Help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Marianne, we'll
Thank
see
you,
you
thank you.
3 tomorrow to sign the oath.
Now, unfortunately, we don't get to have cake
Aw.
tonight. It's usually what we do on these nights. All right, so agenda item 2 is the village council reorganization, and that will go to Village Attorney Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to all the council members. It's certainly the most unique reorganization meeting I've ever been a part of. But the process hasn't changed. The first thing that we have to do is appoint a mayor for the 2020-2021 term. As in years past, any of the council can make a motion to appoint any one of your membership as mayor. A motion has to be seconded, then there would be discussion and a vote. Alternatively, if any of you prefer, a nomination can be made. Nominations do not require a second. However, there can be more than one nomination, and in the event that there is more than one nomination, once all nominations have been made and the floor is closed, we would then vote on them in the order that they were made. So it is at council's pleasure as to whether anyone would like to make a motion or make a nomination for the seat of mayor for the 2020-2021 term.
I'll make a motion. Is it coming up? I nominate Abby to be mayor.
Is there a
And I'll-
second to that motion?
I'll second.
Then ask for council discussion. If there's no discussion, then we can call for a vote. All in favor, actually, let's do this by roll call. Mr. Prince,
Aye.
Mr. D'Ambra,
Aye.
Ms. Brandon,
Aye.
Mr. Stone is no.
Mr. Stone,
Nay.
and Ms. Brennan.
Aye.
All right, then that motion carries 4-1. Abby Brennan is mayor for the 2020-2021 year. Congratulations, Mayor Brennan.
Thank you.
The next item is the appointment of a vice mayor. Exact same process, either a motion or a nomination is in order for the seat of vice mayor for this coming term.
I'll make
I
a
would like to
motion.
make a motion. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to nominate Kyle Stone.
Nominate?
Yes.
Are you making a motion or a nomination?
Okay, I'd make a nomination.
Okay, Mr. Stone, do you accept that nomination?
I do? Yes.
Are there any other nominations for the seat of vice mayor for the 2020-2021 term? Hearing none, we would then call for a vote on the nomination of Mr. Stone to be vice mayor. And again, I'll do a roll call. Mr. Prince,
Yes.
Mr. D'Ambra,
Yes.
Ms. Brandon,
Aye.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
and Ms. Brennan.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes, or the nomination is approved unanimously with Mr. Stone being named vice mayor for the 2020-2021 term. So I congratulate Mayor Brennan and Vice Mayor Stone, and I would turn this back over to the mayor for the council remarks, which is the next item on this agenda.
Well, I first want to congratulate our 2 new members of the council. We have Frank D'Ambra is returning, and of course, he knows a lot of the things that we do, and he has a good knowledge of the collective body and how important it is that we work together. Councilmember Prince, I had the opportunity to speak with you a little bit before you were actually nominated, or I should say nominated, before you had council member-elect status. And I'm eager to serve with you as well. I think we have a wonderful council. It has changed hands in the last couple of years when we have new people coming on. I think that energy is wonderful. I look forward to working with all of you. Councilmember Stone, I definitely think that being the vice mayor is going to be something that you will enjoy and learn a lot from as we go forward. This is especially poignant for me. First of all, I appreciate and I am humbled by the support, but this is important to me this year because this is my last year on the council. And most of you know that I have been struggling with issues with my eyes. They are getting worse. I can make it definitely through this year, and I'll do it on, I'll steamroll right through as I have. But I feel that it will be 10 years when I retire, 10 years being on this council, 10 years that I have been able to support and to serve the residents of this community, the business community. I've lived here over 23 years, and every year I see it get better and better and more attractive to residents and the business community. And I appreciate the opportunity to be the mayor for this last year, and I would be a part of that as well. So thank you all. Thank you all very, very much. I appreciate your, I appreciate your faith in me. I believe it goes to the vice mayor.
Well, yes, I'm excited that beginning a second year here, and happy to see where the council's going. Look forward to serving the council and helping there in any way that I can, keeping the village going in the direction that the residents want it to go. So happy to serve.
Keith, what council members, I
Yes,
think at this
ma'am.
time? Whomever?
Why
You
don't we
want to go,
take-
well, can we go, I'll go in seat order, I guess, because I'm
Okay.
number 1, so I guess that's as good a place as any. No, I'm very happy to be back on the council. Very much looking forward to working with the other members here, and Kyle and Bruce and Mayor Abby. We've got a lot of great opportunities ahead of us. Some challenges as well, obviously, in the current environment, but I think more opportunities to really deliver for our residents, the kind of community and kind of village that they're looking for. I did also want to say it's an honor for me. Last time I was in seat 5, I'm in seat 1 now. Of course, that seat was held by Councilman Arena for 12 years. And Vince is a great friend, a great colleague, and it's really an honor for me to occupy his seat at this point in time going forward. He was obviously a very passionate advocate for this village and for the residents of this village. You might even use the term warrior. That might be an appropriate term to describe Vince's efforts on behalf of everyone in the past. So it's a tribute. I want to pay tribute to him and let him know what an honor it is for me to be able to serve in the seat that he occupied for all these years.
Councilmember Brandon?
Hi.
Hi.
Mr. D'Ambra. And hi, Mr. Prince. I'm excited to see what you have to bring. I'm excited you're joining us. And Kyle, congrats. I know you'll be a good voice for us. And Abby, I know you will keep striving forward with everything that you do. It'll be a good year, especially with the way we've been starting. It'll end strong.
Thank you. Councilmember Prince?
Well, this is obviously a new experience for me doing this Zoom videoing type of communication, but I just want to say thanks to everybody for supporting me in my new adventure. I'm excited about serving the village of Tequesta. It's kind of unusual to start out this way, but I hope that this is going to be, quickly behind us all, and we can put this thing in the history books, and the coronavirus will be a thing of the past hopefully soon. It's been devastating for the whole, internationally. I mean, all over the world, we've been devastated by this virus, and it's taken a toll on many, many families and countries. And I'm looking forward to getting this behind us and concentrating on developing and working hard to make the village of Tequesta the same place that it's always been a very special spot in South Florida. So looking forward to working with everyone again, and thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, then I guess we can go right into the next meeting, which is, we are moving on to our regular Village of Tequesta Council meeting, which is being held using video conferencing. Again, for the record, video conferencing of government meetings has been authorized by State of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in his Executive Order 2020-69. I want to thank all of you who are attending this meeting using Zoom, telephone, and hopefully Facebook Live. And for ADA compliance purposes, closed captioning of the meeting will be processed and available on Facebook Live after the meeting has concluded. It is Thursday, April 9th, and it is 6:21 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Brennan,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone,
Here.
Councilmember Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember Deambra,
Here.
Councilmember Prince.
Here.
All right. Before I ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please note that agenda item 1 under new business has been placed ahead of the consent agenda. The resolution is required before action can be taken at this meeting. In addition, to best facilitate public participation, I have also placed citizen comments ahead of the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Agenda item 1, resolution 12-20.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 1220, resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, adopting policy and implementing protocols for the use of communications media technology to facilitate attendance by elected and appointed officials at public meetings, and to also facilitate public participation and attendance at such meetings, providing that the use of such protocols is limited to periods of declared emergency when public health and safety guidance limits the safe attendance at such meetings in person, and when sunshine law requirements are lawfully relaxed to permit same, providing conflicts clause, a severability clause, an effective date, and for other purposes. We prepared this resolution with these proposed policies and procedures following Executive Order 2069, which was the order that relaxed a number of sunshine law requirements, namely the requirement to have a quorum physically present and the requirement to have the meeting physically located in any particular place, and to allow the conduct of meetings by communications media technology, which is what we're doing tonight. Policy makes findings that are contained in the title that I read. There are definitions for terms that are relevant throughout the document. But to get to the heart of the matter, the resolution provides for the ability to conduct meetings in this format. It provides this statutory notice requirements to conduct these types of meetings, which we have done, and you can see on the the cover of both the reorg meeting and the regular meeting. But essentially, these meetings are noticed the same way that any other meeting would be noticed, except they also include information on how the public can participate via communications media technology. We have to tell them what platform we're using and how to access it. We have to provide an address, email address, or telephone number where people can call or reach out for additional information, as well as to submit public comments in advance of the meeting or in real time, as the case may be. So we've done all that with these agendas. The resolution talks about a quorum, and it essentially says that the quorum can be made through communication media technology, but it provides language to the effect that if the technology drops out and a quorum is lost, that you have to stop the meeting until we get the technology back up and running and the quorum is reconstituted. There's just some very general rules of procedure, kind of speak when you're spoken to. Roll call vote is preferred so that the record is clear on how the vote is taken. There's a provision on quasi-judicial proceedings, and the way it's written is that they're not encouraged in this format for due process and evidentiary reasons. But if you have to have one, we provide a process. Essentially, whoever's going to be testifying to you has to be placed under oath wherever they are, and it's their responsibility to make sure that they can be placed under oath appropriately. The process for providing whatever documentary evidence they may want to submit. And then one other thing that we put in there, I didn't want to create a opportunity for somebody to have a quasi-judicial proceeding and then be able to appeal on due process grounds that they didn't have due process because of the communication media technology. So we're requiring applicants, if they want to go through this exercise, that they have to waive their right to appeal a due process violation based on communication media technology. So they either waive that right or wait until we can have a regular meeting where everybody's in the room together. So that, in a nutshell, is what this resolution provides. The important thing is that it gives a process that will be on the books. So, if something happens next year or in 5 years or whatever, and we're doing this again, we will have something written, that a policy to refer to, so there's consistency in how we do these things. So my recommendation is to adopt the resolution and proceed along its requirements when we hold meetings in this fashion. And it would apply not only to the village council, but also to the planning and zoning board or any other board that is bound by the sunshine law in the village.
Well, I, for one, can't wait until we get back into chambers. Quite frankly, I'm with Council Member Prince. This is, it takes a lot of work getting ready for these things, but does anyone have any other comments before I ask for a motion?
Yeah, I would like to jump in just on one item. I think putting the process in place is important, basically going forward. The only question I had, Keith, was under section 4. It gives the manager the ability to determine whether we want to, in fact, utilize this process or not. I'm not sure I'm completely, no offense, Jeremy, but I'm not completely sure I'm comfortable with that. I think that should be a council decision as to whether we want to go forward and utilize this process should a state of emergency be declared. And
the thought behind that was that if this trigger has to be pulled, a state of emergency will already have been declared, and and sunshine law requirements would already have been relaxed.
And I
at
understand,
the level.
yeah, and I understand that, Keith. I mean, I read through this thing from one end to the other. I understand all that. Again, the question is who makes that determination? And I do think the council should be making that determination. I don't believe that it should just be the village manager making it on his or her own. That's my
Frank,
thought.
what's your reasoning behind that, buddy? What's your justification for wanting to do that?
Well, I just think, you know, the manager, you could have a circumstance occur and all the requirements could be triggered, but we may determine as a council that, hey, we still want to meet in person. We don't want to use the electronic means. We still feel that an in-person meeting, for whatever reasons, might be more conducive, more effective, you know, a better utilization of everyone's time and energy. So I'm just saying, I think in a situation like this, I think the council should determine whether this process actually is invoked and is utilized.
Correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't we have the opportunity to, in the next meeting or whatever it might be, as a council, make a vote saying we think we have the ability to get together and moving forward we should?
Well, one thought I have is if we are in a situation where we should not be getting together based on whatever has occurred, it might be difficult to get the council together. Unless we would take advantage of this resolution so that at least we could meet together online, do it this way, and then make that decision. That's the only thing I'm thinking of, Councilmember D'Ambra, is if we're in a situation, I agree with you. I think that it should be more collectively a decision. But it may be a situation that you may be okay going into chambers at that day, but I would also like to use this resolution to the extent that I don't. And I would still like to participate and be able to vote remotely. Would that be a compromise that you would see?
Well, I think based on what Keith is saying, you could have some council members gather together and a quorum still established through the electronic means. But I guess it gets to your point. I think this should be a collective decision. Again, I don't know what circumstances, there are a variety of circumstances that could occur that might trigger this process, but they can all be unique and different. And whether we need to use this process or whether we could still be together in person with something, as you said, I think it should be a collective decision. It'd be great if there was a way to word this where Jeremy could poll the council, but I don't know if that's legally permissible under these circumstances.
So in my opinion, it's not under the current situation. Based on the executive order we are operating under today, it relaxed two very specific things, and that was the presence of a quorum and the physical location of a meeting, and it allowed for use of this technology. Every other piece of the Sunshine Law remains in place.
Okay.
Now, who knows, pandemic version 2 in a few years, if it'll be the same waivers and relaxations or different. There's no way to know. But I guess the short answer is no. The ability to poll has not been relaxed.
Yeah. No, listen, I understand the efficiency of having one person make the call, but again, I look at the circumstances and I'm like, well, wait a minute. We're making a call with respect to how the council is going to behave or act going forward, and part of me is saying, well, that really should be the council making that determination. So I'm not saying I got a perfect solution here, but I just wanted to throw this out for discussion and thought.
So I'm just curious, how do we throw a meeting together in the future? We just have a quick special meeting to say, yes, we need to move forward with
You could.
technology?
You could call a special meeting and do just that.
I just don't know if that's necessary, but.
I'm just saying, it's a
So
possibility.
you're saying, Frank, that everybody would have to come in for a special meeting to determine whether or not we want to go to video conferencing or not?
Correct.
I think that's a lot of extra legwork, pal, in my opinion, just to decide whether or not we're going to do video conferencing or go into the chambers. I'm going to say on the record, I mean, I don't really have a problem with the city manager calling the shot on that, rather than trying to corral everybody up, make a decision on whether or not we want to go video conferencing or go into the chambers. I don't really see it necessary to leave that up to the councilman.
Keith, does this resolution only take effect if we are in a state of emergency?
The way it's written, there has to be a state of emergency and a relaxation of sunshine law requirements to allow this to happen at the state level. So we'd have to be, or the other thing that it contemplates is if there was a change to general law where they actually changed the sunshine law to allow for this generally. I can't imagine that would be the case, but the Attorney General opinion that the governor asked for and relied on in making his declaration did discuss that possibility or that scenario, so I included it in the resolution because you never know. So either the state of emergency or a change to general law.
All right.
So the village doesn't have to be in a state of emergency?
So when the village goes into a state of emergency, that kind of shifts the decision-making authority to our emergency management team, which is the manager, the mayor, and the fire chief. So in terms of process, it also contemplates that we would be under a local state of emergency for that authority to vest in that limited group of people as opposed to the council in general.
So to be clear, the way this is currently written, that we're going to be under a state emergency and a local village emergency for the manager to have the authority to make it.
Right, before, yes,
Make the
you'd have
choice.
to have the state of emergencies and the relaxation of sunshine law requirements in place already.
All right. Any other comment on this? Do I have a motion to approve
Motion.
as is?
Motion as is.
All right. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Did we have, Frank, I didn't hear your vote.
No, I still have that concern, but
Right.
I think the measure in and of itself is good and it's important, so I'm saying yes.
Okay. All right.
Don't forget
Thank
to
you.
do roll call vote going forward. Roll call votes,
Okay.
Mayor.
Huh?
Do a roll
We-
call vote so that,
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry. I'm thinking roll call. I think we already did the roll call. All right, gotcha. All right, that's what we have to do. All right, very good. All right, so we've had motion, we have approved that. Now we're going to go into communications from citizens. So I'm going to read a little bit into the record on how this is going to work. If you have written in or wish to speak, the clerk will read the Facebook comments first, and then we will open up the phone lines. As is customary in council chambers, please state your name and address for the record. Comments and questions are limited to 3 minutes. Please mute your phones if you are not planning on speaking. Lori, have we been able to get any written comments at this time or something sent previously?
Yes, I have a citizen comment that was sent in via our website. And it is from Lee Hill. And he asks, he has a statement and a question, being that Tequesta Fire Rescue is a one-station department, how would the village staff the units and respond to emergencies if one or more of the shifts or crews needed to be quarantined? Would this affect the level of service to residents? And is this possibly a good time to look into consideration of the fire department into Palm Beach County Fire Rescue?
Chief Trube, are you here? Can you unmute him?
Yep, give me 1 second.
Okay.
if I can
I
find
think
him.
I'd like to hear what Chief says first. Before I have questions.
I have unmuted Chief True.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good evening, Mayor, Village Council, Village Manager, Village Attorney, and Village Clerk. That was quite the interesting question. It's been the history of Tequesta Fire Rescue, quite frankly, to try to maintain the highest level of service for the Village of Tequesta, its residents, its visitors, and to protect our personnel. This pandemic that we're dealing with, it's unprecedented in nature. It's one of the largest logistical nightmares and logistical feats we'll have ever accomplished, quite frankly. Even on the state level, they use the terms, largest ever. So to say that it would impact us any differently than, say, other municipalities, other governments, other agencies is just incorrect. All you have to do is watch the news at night to see what's going on in New York and see that even the big boys are impacted. That said, to answer the question, we tend to tackle things head on in the fire department. We take action. So looking at this as a pandemic, some of the things we've done is we initially started screening of all of our employees. They're screened twice a day to make sure that they don't have fevers, they don't have any symptoms. We're very aggressive in the purchase of PPE. That's the full face mask that we wear. Most agencies are still looking for N95s. We actually want to step above that. We're wearing a full face piece mask with P100s. We're wearing Tyvek suits. Most agencies are wearing gowns. So we attacked the problem head on. Then we looked at where were our vulnerabilities. And once you've attacked the problem head on, you look at secondary decontamination. So we have foggers, we have policies and procedures in place to handle cleaning of equipment, cleaning of vehicles, cleaning of the station, high contact surface areas, every single call, things like that. We also took additional action in how many paramedics we risk on every medical call. Instead of sending in a team of 2 or 3 or 5, we keep the bulk of the team outside of the hot zone, outside of the 6-foot radius that the CDC recommends. We send in 1 guy who's fully protected to assess the patient. If we need another guy, we send in a 2nd guy. If we need 3 guys, we send in 3 guys. That's where we were with protection. Now, understanding that, mathematically speaking, there's still a chance that we're going to have an exposure, we took additional action. We recently opened up a temporary 2nd fire station. It effectively splits our crew in 2. So now you have the added benefit there. If we have an exposure within the fire station, it might take out 2 or 3 people instead of taking out 5 or 6, like you've seen in some other area fire departments. We continue to assess all of our weaknesses, and we continue to look at staffing plans. We do have a plan to utilize overtime, for example, and to utilize moving personnel around to cover shifts. We have a lot of plans in action. We have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, so to speak, because quite frankly, that's what you pay me for. The other thing we have, and I know most of you on council are aware of this, is an automatic aid agreement with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. We have mutual aid agreements with all the surrounding agencies, both Martin County and other area Palm Beach County departments. I can tell you from the fire chief's level, we all agreed we're going to have each other's back. And that's the way we roll. This is not going to be an easy process. The likelihood of one of our guys getting exposed is there. But I believe we've taken a very proactive, a very aggressive, strong stance in trying to prevent that. That's all I have. This was a question.
Mayor, I don't have any other written comments, citizen comments.
Council?
One thing I'll add real quick is I think I was aware of a couple of things that have been taking place, and I know Chief Trube has done a great job of protecting, obviously, our citizens and through themselves, and very forward thinking to get that 2nd station over at the lighthouse and just commend you on getting all that taken care of.
If I could add too, Public Works provided us with 2 foggers. So that gives us another added level of protection. In our decontamination, our disinfecting program, we actually have 4 levels. We're normally at a level 1. The level 2 is all the high contact surface areas that everybody talks about wiping down. And then we can go to level 3 with the foggers and or an electrostatic sprayer, which we did in fact order. And then we also have an outside cleaning agency that's coming in and cleaning public safety facilities every 2 weeks. They're also on call. So should we have an exposure in one of the stations, whether it's police or fire for that matter, we would immediately clean the station and keep everybody safe. So all of our personnel also, as we're following CDC guidelines, if there is an exposure, whether it's, on the job or even off duty, they have to be cleared by our infection control officer. And, we're following the same guidelines everybody else is.
Chief, I commend you and your entire department for all of this that you're doing. I can't imagine this to be a time that we would consider doing anything other than what you are doing now. I feel perfectly comfortable for the residents of our community that they have the best service that they could possibly have. And I'd like to just thank you again for what you're doing.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I could just say one thing, we have a tremendous team, not just in the fire department, but I think across the village. Everybody's working very hard to make sure this is a positive outcome.
Thank you. Lori, do we have any other written comments?
No, we don't.
All right. Brad, would you please open the phone lines for citizen comments?
Yep. I'm going to unmute everybody now and just give me 20 seconds when this is all done to remute and unmute council.
All right.
All right.
If you want to
Everybody
identify yourself.
You got to cover it. I know that, Lynn.
Best before use.
Oh, this is fairly new.
Does anyone have a question for the council?
I really don't need.
Other than doing dishes.
That's scary phone.
I'm not hearing anything. If you can hear me, if you might want to mute your phone if you're not going to ask a question. All right, I'm not hearing anything but dishes at this time. So I haven't heard anyone else kind of ask a question. So Brad, would you please close the line now? And we will wait 20 seconds.
Okay. I'll let you know as soon as everybody's unmuted. Yep. 1 second.
All right, just let me know.
All right. Everybody is now unmuted.
All right. Thank you. And council is up now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Council is unmuted.
All right, excellent. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
I don't know. The Frank.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Frank, I didn't see you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There were 2 items that I would like Chief Medina to address, which are items 4 and 5.
Are you pulling them from the consent agenda?
If to discuss them, yes.
Okay, all right, so we'll pull 4 and 5 from the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda without 4 and 5?
So moved.
Second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right, let's address item number 4, Frank.
The question I had for Chief Medina on 4 was, I know there was some discussion about some additional funding, I thought, to maintain the boat on patrol, not just for manatee purposes, but to help enforce the quarantine, I thought. So I know we've gotten some additional money for the manatee program. I'm wondering if we've gotten any additional funds above and beyond that to assist with the overall enforcement efforts that they're making.
Can we unmute Chief Medina?
Chief Medina is unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman, we actually designed a line item on this year's budget that allows us to give extra Marine Patrol outside of the Manatee, which runs from November 15th to March 31st. Outside of that, we put $25,000 into the Marine Enforcement Unit, and that is what is allowing us to have extra enforcement. Even before the pandemic was an issue, we already had a line where we would be doing weekend coverage. However, due to the pandemic, I've actually switched some people's schedules around, and we have coverage 7 days a week during the day.
So, Chief, do you believe that any of that costs will be subject to FEMA reimbursement?
Yes, some of it will. Absolutely.
All right, that was my question on 4. Do we want to proceed with that one?
I can take a vote on that. Do I have a motion to approve item 4?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Item 5.
And the question on 5, Chief, I don't know if you want to discuss for people what these 2 programs actually are, but I did have one question because the way this reads, it says approved Palm Beach allocation of funds to our reentry and fuse programs. So it almost makes it sound like these are programs that the Village of Tequesta is sponsoring or is actively engaged in. But my understanding from what I've read is that, no, this is a Palm Beach County initiative, but I thought it might be helpful just to very briefly explain what these 2 programs are for people.
Not a problem. It's a grant that the county received in regards to prisoner reentry, as well as with the homeless population. What they require is 51% of mayors within Palm Beach County have to approve, obviously through council, so they can collect the funds for the federal grant. But what the grant is designed to do, the reentry program, it provides transitional services to adults and juveniles who are released from jail and prison to the Palm Beach County area. It helps them getting them back on their feet, reentry in regards to job placement and giving them other services. And then the second part of that, which is the Palm Fuse program, this breaks the cycle of incarceration and homelessness among individuals who have behavioral health challenges, who are the highest users of jail, homeless shelters, and hospitals and other crisis systems. So what this is saying that we, the Village of Tequesta, should anyone, within our village ever need those services, they will be made available through the county as a result of us approving this.
And my understanding is the recidivism through these programs is dramatically less or dramatically improved over those individuals who don't participate in these programs.
Absolutely. These programs allow them to get the kind of services that otherwise would go not given to them or provided to them. So this honestly is a big help for those coming out of prison.
Thank you, Chief. That was it.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve item 5?
So moved.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we'll move on to council comments, if we still have some. And let's start with our new council members. Councilmember DeAmbra, do you have something?
No, I'm good at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Prince.
I'm good as well, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Brandon.
Just that by following other towns and what's going on right now, I think Tequesta, even though we're in it, I think Tequesta's been doing a really good job overall, especially with the citizens. I have witnessed some upset citizens as they're out and about, but that's probably just from stress. But as a whole, I think the village is doing a really good job. Everyone's keeping it to themselves, keeping it old school, trying to follow guidelines. And I think at the end of this, it'll just bring everybody closer together. And I'm really just hoping everyone follows the rules. Let's hope, huh?
Yep. Vice Mayor Stone.
I've just been impressed by a lot of different segments of the community and seeing people reaching out and willing to help, trying to connect people that need help and that they can provide it. I'm excited to see people and families and children all on bikes riding around throughout our village. I think there's a different perspective of how great our village is. I know people on Country Club that are riding the sidewalk are probably feeling all the bumps. It's important to know that we're still moving forward with money that's already been allocated to help repair those sidewalks. But been impressed with the staff and dealing with different situations from with working with the employees to make sure that they're staying safe. But my hat's off for Jeremy and everything that he's been doing from day one when he got here, not even a year ago, but a lot being thrown at him. So I just want to commend the group and encourage everyone, just keep going, we'll get there.
Thank you. I agree with you, Vice Mayor, for sure. I just wanted to thank all of our residents for doing what we've been asking them to do, what the CDC is asking people to do. I think that there has been a wonderful response to that. And I know that Councilmember Brandon is out there riding and doing all kinds of grocery shopping for people. And I think also the Vice Mayor has as well. So I appreciate the people that are young being able to come and get our groceries for us. So thank you all for that. I certainly appreciate it. All right, let's move to standing reports. We'll start with Village Attorney Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of my work was in the resolution that we discussed earlier in the meeting. Beyond that, I just want to congratulate the Mayor, Vice Mayor, and all of our newly sworn in council members. The year's off to an interesting start, but I think we'll be good, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Unless you have any questions, I'll leave it at that.
No, thank you. All right, we'll hear Village Manager Jeremy Allen's report. We received it in writing as well.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I have quite a bit to add to that. And you guys have seen the staff reports presented from all of our statistics that we have. You'll probably see a drop in some of our service numbers just due to the COVID-19. I would like to start by welcoming Bruce and Frank, and we've had some conversations already. So I look forward to working with both of you guys. With this cloud over us, I would like to just remind everybody, Census 2020, get out, take care of your census. It is important to the village. I know that's been kind of dropped on the wayside. Every time I went to a meeting for a long time, that's all we talked about, Census 2020. Now nobody's really talking about it, but it still is important. We need to make sure that we get out and fill out those forms. Would also like to acknowledge that we have a very dedicated staff. I know this came up a couple times, but our number one priority is health, safety, and welfare of the community, and our staff has answered the bell for that, and so I applaud them for that. Just kind of an organization update as it relates to COVID-19. We've been closely monitoring expenses and revenues as well as projections, working with the state, listening to the state on some of these, projections. Very hard, very much a moving number. As you know, we've halted a lot of major projects that we've, implemented some policies and procedures to reduce exposure. And we've been really trying to make sure we follow all the CDC recommendations. We are looking at some significant dips in revenues already, a significant drop in building revenues. As you guys know, we used we switched over 1% to help cover some of the operating general fund. We are looking at a significant drop in that array. There is no commercial permit activity, so the revenue associated with that. Also, the state's looking at projected, the last numbers that me and Hugh have talked about, is a 35% dip in sales tax. So that's going to have a significant effect on our general fund, as well as our surtax capital improvement plan. So, we're trying to stay up on those things and hopefully, keep updating as this thing evolves. We are also keeping an eye on some of the projected ad valorem that will come out in a couple months. While it may have the ad valorem may be up or down, one of the big things is going to be there's going to be a lot of contested assessments, and so that will affect some of our recovery. So even though if they come out and project a 4% increase, if we don't recover 99% of that, we're going to see a significant drop in our budget. So we're trying to stay on top of that because that's going to be really significant. We are right in the early stages of budget. So, you know, all those things is going to be a very daunting task to really come up with a budget that projects well. So right now we're looking at very, very flat revenue increases, if not less than this current year that we're in right now. So there's some significant challenges coming. We are looking at holding both EAC, the Environmental Committee, and the Planning and Zoning Commission in May. If it has to be in this format, we will do that. You know, as Keith mentioned, you know, it's not encouraged to hold that P&Z meeting this way. So we will look at those cases and what cases we can hear during that. And there is a waiver that goes with that, as Keith mentioned. On a positive note, you know, I've talked with our rec staff and kind of challenged them to come up with some fun things to really put a positive spin on what's going on in the village. As you know, tomorrow night we have a camp at home with Tequesta. It's you know, kind of a cool event to really encourage people to stay in, but gives them an activity. So break out the tents. I think we're going to do, you know, blankets and things across the couches and just to make our own little tents in the front room. We also, Greg and his staff is going to do a drive-through Easter Bunny on Saturday from 9 to 11. Get a chance to wave at the Easter Bunny. You know, we're going to keep our social distancing. No one's going to get out of their cars. So we're not encouraging people necessarily to group together. We'll say both the chiefs and I, we listen on emergency management county conference call every day. All of us are on multiple other conference calls. I would say, you know, I definitely think the silver lining out of all this is just the cooperation with other municipalities, other police chiefs, other fire chiefs, other managers of Palm Beach County have just been, you know, awesome to work with, and everybody just seems to be pulling together to try to, you know, tackle these issues that we have here. I will say that the orders remain in place that all beaches, all docks, all parks, all community pools, all gatherings at this time. And I know that's hard. Everybody wants to be out, even some of the private beaches and everything. We you know, we have to make sure that we follow this. I think if I would just work encouragement, remain patient, try to follow the guidelines, and we'll get back to a Tequesta way of life very soon. And I think that's what we're all shooting for. And hopefully it'll be sooner than later. With that, that's into my report, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Jeremy, I had one question. During the workshop, we talked about whether the law enforcement fund that we have from our cooperation with, I think it was ICE in the past, whether any of that money could be utilized for the personal protection gear that we're purchasing. I know you guys were going to look into that. I don't know if you've had a chance to look into that or not, but I'm just curious as to where that might be at this point.
The chief and I have talked about that briefly. I mean, as long as it's equipment that's related to just police, I mean, in that particular case, fire wouldn't be able to utilize those things because it's got to be very police eccentric or whatever. But I think we could use it. I think we're in good shape with PPEs right now. I mean, we've had a meeting to discuss, you know, what our burn rate is on that. So I don't think it's something we have to purchase at this time. So I don't see a need to utilize that fund for this situation currently.
Okay, all right.
Anything else for Jeremy? All right, thank you. Brad, could you unmute Chief Gus, Chief Trube, and also Utility Directors Matt Hammond? All three of them sent us reports today instead of coming up and actually speaking, and I just wondered if there were questions for any of the three that we could ask those questions now. I have one.
They're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. For Matt, I saw that you have this policy in place and you're doing all this work for the pandemic, but I was curious, how did you have the workers that had to go fix those pipes? What was that, what was that protocol? How did you get them there? How did they keep distance? How did that work? And sometimes, I don't know if this was the case, Public Works is there because there might be a street that had to be repaired. But I was just curious, what are your procedures for when you go out to make fix a broken pipe?
Yeah, good question. So for water main breaks, or I guess in general, Our distribution team is operating individually, whether it's reading meters or checking on a customer call. When they do have to respond together, then there is the appropriate PPE as far as masks that they are provided, that they're wearing when they're working together. So the one that happened on Monday over in the Anchorage Point area, when I went out there during the process, they all of the individuals were wearing the masks that were provided to them during that process.
Do they go in separate vehicles, or were they riding together in the same vehicle?
No, they all wherever they're going at this point, they are going in separate vehicles.
Okay. All right. That was my question. Anything for anybody else?
I do have a question for Matt while he's still here. I noticed that during the changeover, you've had a handful, 784 meters that have been changed over. So it looks like there's been really good progress there. And I also am aware that there was one or two water bills that kind of got missed that were at a very high level due to a technicality of some sort. Might have been missed because maybe people aren't coming in the office for whatever reason. Obviously, we know the reason. What are we doing to try to verify that we're catching those one-off $12,000 water bill that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we run, every month we run a report for discrepancies, whether it's a zero read or a high read. That one particular instance, I have our customer service manager looking into why that one wasn't caught by the report. But for that customer, we've contacted them, been in contact with them, corrected the bill, and then just as far as our customer service, we, as a practice, for larger instances in this case, we follow up with a card too. But we're that particular one, we're following up on why that wasn't caught by our process that we run every month before the bills go out.
Now, can I follow up on that question? Because with I guess the first question is, do they have the automated meter at this point in time? Because our understanding was that with the automated readers, we were going to be able to catch these things like in 24, 48 hours. It wasn't just going to be an end of the month run, that we'd be able to see a significant aberration in real time so that we could intercede, more quickly. I don't know what the circumstances were with this particular situation, but that seems to be, it seems to be askew to what we were originally told with the changeover to the automated meters.
Yeah, so that you're absolutely right, and I'm excited and looking forward to when that's in place. We're in the middle of that transition process right now, okay. which involves transitioning over the balance of the water meters that aren't compatible, AMI compatible, transitioning them over, as well as on the actual automatic or advanced metering infrastructure, the actual antenna and base stations themselves to collect that. That's in the process. Those have physically been installed, and now on the back end, the software is being implemented. But that schedule, that time frame, is several months down the road before we have that fully rolled out. So I'm looking forward to when we get there, but we're in that process right now of that project to get to that point.
Okay, I guess I thought we were a little further ahead than that. So that explains it. All right, thank you.
If I could add just something to that real quick, I think every once in a while we get one of these reads, unusual high. Every time that we've received these or we know about them, Matt and his team have done an excellent job of trying to help troubleshooting these issues. Some of them, may be on the customer side, maybe an irrigation leak, maybe a pool. Our crew will help troubleshoot those and help rectify the situation and make sure that the bill gets down to something what is considered normal. And so, if there are some of these situations, hopefully everybody takes a step and gives us a chance to fix those. And obviously from our side, we want it to be zero. We don't want any of those issues, and hopefully this AMI will really help us get closer to that. But, you know, Matt and his team do an excellent job of trying to troubleshoot those. And even if it's on the customer side, they usually do a good job of trying to troubleshoot it and help them fix that problem. So,
Yeah. No, and I agree with that, Jeremy. I just, like I said, I thought the automated system might have been a little further along than it appears to be. So that's why I was really asking that question. So.
All right. Anything else? All right, let's move on
Well,
to
real quick,
somebody else.
if I can, I was going to thank Chief Medina and his team in having Pastor Paul out there sending out daily words of encouragement. It's nice to have during this time, and I just want to thank you guys for putting that out and making sure that we all get that.
Excellent.
Thank you,
All right,
Councilman.
let's move on to old business. Agenda item 9, ordinance 01-20, second reading.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 1-20, ordinance of the Village Council, Village of, wait a minute. Is this the right? Yeah. Ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78 zoning, Section 78561, special events, by amending this section to place responsibility for processing applications with the building department to reduce mandatory minimum application submittal time for events that are intended to have less than 200 attendees, and to give the village manager final approval authority in the approval process for such applications. Providing each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify an effective date and for other purposes.
Second reading. This is a public hearing now open for council comment. Seeing none, it is now closed to the council. Lori and Brad, could you open up the phone lines? And Lori, do you have anything in writing
I do not.
concerning this item?
You have to do it to yourself.
Okay, everybody is now
Worked on
unmuted.
for a long time. What do we do to try to address that in the middle of this larger crisis?
Well, I mean, I think we have to address the crisis at hand. I think it is completely unacceptable.
I'm muting individuals
please
with
mute
open
that.
mics. Okay, everybody's still unmuted.
All right, then. Anything else? Does anyone have any comments on this last item? All right, seeing none, the hearing is closed to the public. And do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Does anyone have anything for any other matters?
I have one item.
Yes.
I guess this goes to both Keith and Jeremy. Given the current circumstances, of course, we have ordinances with respect to signage and right-of-ways. But as I'm sure we've all noticed, a number of the restaurants, particularly those that are still open, still doing self-serve, a number of them have gone ahead and put signs in the right-of-ways, although not all of them. I'm wondering if under the current circumstances, it's possible for us to consider relaxing the code with respect to those signs, given that we have an emergency situation. And we would permit all restaurants, and they would be notified that they can, in fact, do something with respect to signage to indicate to people that they are open for business and they're available, you know, for the residents to service their needs. Some have not, I know, because they felt like it would be, they were told they couldn't do it in the past. Others have basically taken the bull by the horn and said, hey, we're in desperate circumstances. People need to know we're here, we're open. Business is being diminished anyways. We need to try and capture as much as we can. So I'm just wondering if we can take some, or should consider taking some action to promote this and promulgate it across the board for everybody.
Keith, you want to tackle that one?
I mean, we can talk about the best way to proceed. Generally, the executive order that declared a state of emergency statewide, and then our village declaration, contemplate waiving procedures and formalities otherwise required taking whatever prudent action is necessary to ensure health, safety, and welfare of the community. That's a pretty broad statement. In terms of something like what Mr. D'Amber is asking about, I would argue that to the extent there's a direct conflict, we could do something temporarily if it was your pleasure.
Yeah, and that's what I'm suggesting, is something that would be temporary along with, in alignment with the declaration disaster and for whatever time remains in place.
Council, any thoughts? Or Jeremy?
The only thing I thought is make sure that's what everybody wants, and we can do that. I mean, if there's concerns, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I just think that the village has done a very good job of reaching out, calling all the restaurants, identifying who's doing what, posting that on Facebook and on our website to help let our residents know. I know council members have also reposted and let other, their friends and family.
I think the concern, Kyle, is you've got a number of restaurants that are doing exactly what I'm suggesting. You have some others who are not. So either we have to enforce tell those individuals those signs have to be removed, or we could pursue a temporary change to allow all restaurants and any other business that might still be open to provide signage as a way of letting people know that, hey, we're here and we're open for business. I think you got to do one or the other. Right now it's a smorgasbord out there of some people are complying, some people are not.
How would you implement that change as far as letting all the other restaurants know that, say, hey, look, during these troubled times that we're going to allow you to put the signage in the right of way? To just have someone from the city go around, Frank, and let them know that we're going to relax that law and allow them to do that. And by the way, I think that's a great idea. I have noticed that people were advertising and putting signs out in the right of way. And I just thought we were just kind of turning our heads in regards to that statute, not allowing them to do that. So I think it's a great idea to, in some fashion, let them know that it's okay to do that. I mean, certainly would have my vote to allow them to do that, whatever it means that we can do that, help any of these businesses sustain these difficult times.
Yeah, I think I'll let Jeremy elaborate on this, but I believe we have email addresses for all the businesses through the business association. And obviously we can use that as well as having somebody from the village go out if necessary.
We do have contacts for all the businesses, most of them emails. The ones that we don't, we can mail a letter. We can also do some follow-up calls for those restaurants. So, I mean, I don't see it as a logistical problem if all of council believes that's okay and that we can relax those for the time being, only while we're under this state of emergency.
Right.
That would be where I would weigh in, is on as long as we're in a state of emergency, which could be lifted in 3 weeks. But I feel we worked so hard on this to get that back into, no more, we were having no more signs, nothing in the rights of way. We worked so hard to get it there. So I wouldn't want to go backwards on this. But I do understand as long as we're in a state of emergency. But the second we're out of it, then those signs have to come up. Even if they're still open, even if their business is down, I understand that, but I really don't want to start seeing all these signs again popping up and these flutter banners and everything else that people think they can use. So I really would like to make sure that it would only apply as long as we're under a state of emergency.
What I would propose and add is that what we'll do is we'll relax the A-frame sign that we have that allows them. Right now it calls for 5 feet within the building. We'll allow them to put that one A-frame sign out in the right of way. And so that way we're not going crazy with this new sign and seeing flags and temporary signs and banners and all this different stuff. We'll just relax that requirement. But let me get with Jose and I will update you guys on our final, how we're going to proceed with that and what we proceed with. But that would be what I would recommend.
And we're only talking restaurants?
I would I would say restaurants, and then if there's other businesses that could benefit by this, I wouldn't just make it exclusive to restaurants. Because lots of small businesses are struggling right now. But I agree with what Jeremy's saying. We provide them with some guidance as to what's acceptable. And also what the mayor has said, which is obviously as soon as the state of emergency is over, those signs have to be removed.
I would caution you on all businesses. And then you start getting into what is essential, what is not. And I would just say I'm only in favor of restaurants during the state of emergency.
Well, you know, guys, I think that you're opening up a can of worms by allowing some businesses to do it and others not. And you're going to get a lot of flack, I would think. If I was in business and I wanted to do a little advertising, let everybody know that I was in business and the restaurants and stuff were able to do it, and I wasn't, then I'd probably go down to City Hall and complain.
We don't want that.
No.
No, and the
I don't know,
difficulty.
buddy. I agree with what you're saying, Kyle, in one sense.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Bruce?
I'm sure Kyle's happy with that. He agreed with Kyle. I mean, that was it.
Well, so the difficulty becomes, you know, you've got this executive order that says non-essential services are not to operate, and then there's a list longer than the day of exceptions to that. And, you know, restaurants for carry out and takeout only is one of the things that can exist. But if there are other essential services, you know, Mr. Prince makes a good point. If we're going to allow one essential service, but not allow another, and I have no idea what other essential services we have in our commercial corridor that are open and struggling. But that could be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to treat everybody equally. All these small businesses are struggling. If they're considered an essential service, if they're open for business, if they wanted to take advantage of the signage, they might not all choose to do so, but if they wanted to, then I think they should be allowed to during this very distinct period of time. I know where Mr. Prince was going with it. I understand what Kyle's saying as well, but again, I think you got to treat everybody on an equal basis. I don't think we should be one against the other. If it's been defined as essential and they're open, they should have the opportunity to put the signage out there if we agree to relax the policy during this period.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree. I just think you're open up your worms with anybody and everybody, even essential, putting out signs there that, like you said, don't necessarily need a sign, but now we're calling them and letting them know, hey, you can put signs out there. I just think, Jeremy, you just got to be real careful on how you word that you're allowed to start putting signs in the right of way, and make sure everyone knows that when the state of emergency is done, that they have to be.
Agreed.
I agree with that.
We'll draft something up. I'll get with Jose and we'll put something together and get that out and make sure it's uniform for the essential businesses and make sure they know it's temporary and only during this state of emergency.
And then the other thing I would ask is if there's anything they can think of that we might be able to do to help support them, that reach out and let us know that too. I mean, this is what signs is one aspect. There might be others.
Okay.
Right.
Good point.
Right. Okay. Does anyone have anything else for any other matters? I have one thing I just want to bring up. Originally, we were going to be forming the audit committee, and everybody was going to come in with the names of but I think due to our current circumstances and people that we would get on the committee really would probably want to meet in person first because they don't know each other, so it would be a little difficult. So because of the timing of this, I was going to ask if we couldn't stay with our existing audit firm for another year, and so that we can move forward in this process. It's time related, and then go back out next year if council thought that would be okay. It's the same firm we've had. They're a good firm. We know it. We know we want to go back out again, but I think now trying to put a committee together under these circumstances would probably not be the best way to go.
And I think Keith is going to say that that's probably not allowed.
Well, no,
No?
actually, again, under
Okay.
the state of emergency that we're under, the specific language is that we can waive procedures and formalities otherwise required by law pertaining to performing public work, entering into contracts, and incurring obligations. So, I think the state of emergency gives us the opportunity to waive that audit committee formality, arguably.
Well, I would say arguably we are up against a pretty tight deadline.
Especially
so,
if there's a deadline. Yeah.
Right, and then
That's it.
even the other part of this is, staff is very comfortable with the firm. They've been with us quite a long time, and so we support them if that's the direction council wants to go.
I think, I think it's a good idea. You don't want to rush this. You want to do it right. You want to have a good group of people participating, and you've got the current year is now, what, 5-6 months away from concluding, and you're going to start your audit work before the year's over. So,
Yeah, they start within months.
so I think
So
that's a
Keith,
great
do we
idea.
need a motion to do this?
Well, I
No, I
offer
think
this,
under your state of emergency, the emergency management team has the authority to act. And if, there's certainly, since we're all together, consensus of the council, if we have that would be appropriate.
Well, I think there's going to be an agreement that we have with them that we will bring back to council next month that authorizes them to do that work. And so that'll be your vote at that point.
All right.
Well, I think Keith, you're suggesting we have a consensus now, though, that we want to defer the committee itself until the following year, which I would concur with.
All right.
That's what I was suggesting. If there's no objection from anybody, I mean, this was not an agenda item. Typically, we don't act on any other matters. But we're all here. We can discuss it. If there are no objections, then I think you can proceed that way.
Okay.
Yeah, based on the clarification, I have no objection.
All right. Lori?
I have no objection.
Okay. I don't know if Bruce rejoined us because I can't see him.
He is not rejoined.
All right. But Frank, you're good with it?
I'm good with it.
And I am as well.
The
We
other,
have a
Mr. Dunk really just chimed in and said that we do have a renewal option under the current contract anyway. So, we have that option to continue regardless of, the state regulations. We have that ability. So I think we're good.
Oh, well, if we have one more renewal year, then we can just exercise that and we don't even have to worry about it.
Right.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. If there isn't anything else, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, thank you again for joining us this evening. We appreciate your interest and participation, and good night. Thank you. Brad?
Ending the meeting now.